art of Kempo that we do is so spectacular and so street-oriented. It's not a sport, it's a martial art. There was just a lot of action in a very, very small amount of time, and you're moving very, very quickly. As the movie was going along, and everybody's looking at what they call the dailies, they realized we got something here. To be honest with you, that's how I've done everything in my life. I'm gonna step up to the plate and I'm gonna swing. I grew up in the Chicagoland area. I left there when I was 17 years old as soon as I graduated from high school and went to Southern Missouri. And that's where I started my martial art career. So I'm now a black belt with Lou Angel in Japanese Goju-Ryu. I'm graduating from school, and he says, you know, if you want to make martial arts your life, you should move to California and study Kempo from Ed Parker because he's the best in the world. And I went, okay. I drove out to California with a letter of recommendation from Lou Angel to give to Ed Parker. And I found Ed Parker at a big tournament, and I bowed to him and handed him this letter of recognition from Lou Angel. And he read it and went, oh, my old friend Lou Angel, and you're one of his black belts. And he hugged me and gave me his home phone number. He said, in a couple of weeks, give me a call and I'll get you started in Kempo. So I'm in the West LA school studying and teaching, of course. And someone who brought their kid in like every week was a publicist in the movie business. And she kept saying, you know, you ought to take acting lessons and take this thing you do and go out there because I've never seen anything like this. So in my acting workshop, where I studied for 5 years, they had a video division. So you would do your scene on stage, and then another day you'd come in and that scene you would do on video camera. So you would learn lighting and blah, blah, blah. Well, the guy that ran the video division was Glenn Bruce, who was the writer for Van Damme's second movie, Kickboxer. He called Mark DeSalle and said, you gotta see this. Mark DeSalle was the producer of Van Damme's first 3 movies. Mark had a 3-picture deal with Van Damme, just finished filming the 3rd one. Now he's without an actor. So Mark came to the studio one night and I did my thing and that was it. So I signed a 4-picture deal with Mark DeSalle, and immediately after that, through an acquaintance of his, he was introduced to the president of production of Paramount at that time, Gary Lucchese. And so that package of, here's Mark DeSalle, Van Damme's first 3 movies, he's got the next guy, come in, 4-movie deal. So the only thing that needed to happen next was Gary Lucchese and a few executives. They came to the karate school one night after work closed, and I had my fellow black belts there and did a demo for them, and that was it. And who wouldn't want that, right? Your first movie, great, you know, here we go. And by the way, Paramount wants all the options as well as the first movie that they're gonna write for you, and it's called The Perfect Weapon, and you know, you're just getting nailed with all this stuff. It was overwhelming, as you can imagine. Dave Wilson, who's the writer of The Perfect Weapon, wrote the movie for me, and we worked together very closely so I could bring the essence of what it is to be a martial artist, but yet you still have to please the crowd, right? Or else nobody's gonna go see your movie. The nature of Kempo is it's so violent, it's so practical, it's so dynamic that, well, you don't have to worry about the martial arts side, we got that. Now the question is, can we bring an essence of what it is to be a better human being and maybe help other people to have a better life? That's what being a martial artist is, where you're trying the best you can to raise the vibration of humans on planet Earth and make a contribution to that. And I'm 1,000% about that.
The tiger is strong and fearless, but it cannot initiate action. That is the difference between man and tiger.
Tiger is what I know.
The dragon is also very strong, but full of wisdom.
Once the storyline started to rack into focus, then I said, okay, I'm going to be in an apartment here, I'm going to be in a gym there, I'm going to be in the street here. Now I have the environment. Then my job would be to choreograph that environment consistent with what's being written. You have 4 guys here, it's a day, it's night, it's inside, it's outside. That's when I would go to Ed Parker's house, and we would sit down, and I had a legal pad, which I still have, with all the sketches and all the different fight scenes and my notes of my conversations with him, because he spent his whole life saying, if I ever got the chance to do a Kempo movie the way I wanted it to do, I want this. And I went, great. And so we choreographed that movie together and did that work there, and then I took that to Rick Avery and we took it to the set. The stunt coordinator and second unit director, Rick Avery, also happens to be a 7th degree black belt in Kempo. When I started to get everything organized and I knew I was doing Perfect Weapon, Ed Parker said, I got the guy, and he called Rick Avery and he came in and then he brought all the right guys and he made my life so easy. Rick Avery was not only brilliant at what he did, but he's a Kempo guy. So he knew the essence of what I wanted to achieve. And so he helped enormously on every level, from camera angles to stunts to who's going to be the stuntman, to all those things are really, really important. The really wonderful thing about making movies is it takes a village to make a movie. Everybody's got to do their job, and you learn how to work with 60, 80, 100 people as one, as a family, as a group of people with one goal in mind, which is to do the best movie you can. The complexity of the fight scenes and the street speed we were moving at really demanded that we would hire the stunt crew much more in advance than other movies. Normally, when you do a fight scene, you meet the stuntmen that morning on the set, and you then have your X amount of time to teach them, show them, choreograph the fight scene with the stuntman, and then you shoot the scene. That wasn't the way we did it here because there was just way too much going on. One mistake could be a very serious injury, not just nicks and bruises, but it could be a very bad news kind of afternoon for somebody. So we hired the stunt crew long in advance, went to my karate school, and trained fight scene number 1, fight scene number 2. These guys are here from at 2 o'clock, the next crew comes in, the next. So we had everybody, they knew what was going on. But the really key thing I think that worked for Perfect Weapon, for any other kind of fight scene that you're gonna do, the stuntman will, if it's a hit like this, they'll take the hit and they'll come right back so they can see the next one, so they can see the next one. But I'm moving way too fast. So what we did is whatever stunt person that I was gonna work with in this moment, in this scene, he and I would go through everything. And then what we would do would be the opposite of what everybody else would do. The stuntman would know that the first was a hit to the nose that would rock his head back, then there'd be a hit to the stomach to bring his head back down, and then there'd be like an elbow or a strike to the jaw. He would go 1, 2, 3. Instead of doing 1 and him looking, and 2 and him looking, and 3, he would just react with 1, 2, 3. And I would fit his speed instead of him fitting mine. We shot it the other way around. So they learned the sequence of their reaction to my hit would be this and this and this, and this and this and this. There were many. And then we'd rehearse that and practice that. So you, the stuntman, would just go like that. You would practice, and then I would step in and meet your movements. And that's how the fight scenes worked, I think, so well. Because I didn't have to slow down. You weren't looking for me. I was looking for you. And as long as you don't zig when you're supposed to zag, I can go 200 miles an hour and nobody got hurt. The Perfect Weapon was a very big production. So we had many weeks to shoot the film, where most films like this are shot in maybe 4 weeks, 6. We had 10. The big fight scenes, especially what we call the set piece fight scene, which was the big fight in the Taekwondo gym. When we came in to shoot that fight scene, we had 2.5 days, just the fight scene. We had 120 setups in every day. It was just rolling for 12 hours, 2 days, and then another half day. That's an amazing amount of time spent and money spent on a fight scene that's going to last 15 seconds, 10 maybe. That's a big deal. I would have to shoot street speed, even on a little close-up of one shot, but that speed would have to match, or else we couldn't use it in editing. There's only so much adrenaline that you can get up on your own. So I had a trick. I would take an ammonia cap, snap it open, and take a hit of ammonia and throw it off to the side, and that makes you rush. That brings your everything up. And that's what I did for 2.5 days. He drilled action, and boom, I would fire out. Paramount came to me and said, we want to do a fight scene where you just do it the way you think it should be done. So Dave Wilson came back in to write. We added this fight scene in the back alley we call the Wallet fight scene. And if you watch that fight scene and put it against any of the others, it looks completely different because the camera stays there. And all this action happens right here. Instead of going in and back and cut and edit and go from this side and that and all that, it's very, very fast, but it really accurately represents how Kempo really works in the street. That's why martial artists look at that fight scene, they go, that's it. Because they know that's the way it's supposed to be. And when you come over here and you re-edit and use wires and use camera tricks and whatever, it's not real. Toru Tanaka, he was always in this black suit. That was a size 60 portly. That's how big that guy was. Toru Tanaka was so thrilled to be in the movie. That was the Ed Parker Kempo movie. He was just such a nice man. I mean, a monster, right? We have our fight scene, which is at the end of the third act, which is on the wharf, which is Long Beach, California. Night shoot, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, shooting all through that. Damp and cold and miserable and all that stuff. There's this part in the movie where he and I are fighting, where after he does something to me, he reaches down, grabs the back of my pants, and then steps back and throws me into a bunch of barrels. The next day after that fight scene where he picked me up and threw me, I get out of bed and I'm like, wow, my back really hurts. And it wouldn't go away, and finally, I turn and look in the mirror, and in the small of my back are 5 blue dots, bruises, where his fingertips grabbed me before he grabbed my belt. That's how strong this guy was. And that didn't go away anytime soon. But the gentle giant, a really caring, wonderful person who was just a monster. So he plays that in the movie, but yet he's the kindest person you would ever meet. That was a huge stunt. The stuntman that was there, he put on a complete full mask that was not Toru Tanaka, who stood there and took that and was on fire and running around. That's a very, very dangerous stunt. I mean, it's hours to set up that one shot, and you got one take. That's it, because this is blown up and that's blown up and the stuntman is burned and you got to get the suit off of him and douse him, and the ambulances are there and all that big time stuff. When you've got, you're gonna crash and burn a car or something like that, you got one take. So you better have 4, 5, 6 cameras because if one is out of focus, what are you going to do? Shoot it again? I mean, you could, but then you got to buy another car, and you got to, it's just ridiculous.
What's going on here?
The big fight scene in Kim, the character Kim, it was Mako's shop. That was all backlot Warner Brothers. Yeah, so we spent quite a bit of time. We spent more time on the backlot, a lot more time on the backlot of Warner Brothers than we did on Paramount. They built Koreatown. Yep, it was amazing. And again, look at it from my point of view. I never did any of this before. And even to walk on the backlot of Paramount, and your name's on the security, you just go have lunch on the backlot of Paramount anytime you want. I mean, you got to admit that was pretty cool.
Are you faster than a speeding bullet? Try it, Superman. I want you to try it.
Everybody on the set of The Perfect Weapon, they knew something special was going down here. And especially after the first fight scene, it was really interesting because I'd walk on the set and it was a little different. They said good morning to you a little different, because now you actually can do this stuff that, they just thought was in the movies. There were many stuntmen in that movie who lined up to be in the first Ed Parker movie. We were doing the fight scene that was in the club. And one guy in particular, he came up and he said, I want you to hit me. And I'm wearing my cowboy boots. And I'm going to do a spin heel kick to this guy's face. And he said, I'm going to take the hit for Mr. Parker. And I went, are you sure about that? Because this is not a fake boot. This is a real cowboy boot. He said, no, I want you to hit me. So I spun around, wham. And I pointed my foot so I didn't hit him with the heel, but I whacked him. He took that hit and let his arms fly to the side and took it right in the face first, crashing into those tables. But that was indicative of what these guys were doing. They were lining up to do their part to be in the Ed Parker Kempo movie. It was amazing. The Perfect Weapon comes out. It's a really big success. It's something I'm so tremendously proud of. It turned out to be more than I ever thought it would. We opened theatrically across the country, and then right after that worldwide. We made much more money than they ever projected that we would make. And yet, here's the yin-yang of it, right? The other side is Ed Parker steps off the plane in Hawaii, which is his home, to go home to see his mom. And he drops dead at the airport as soon as he put his foot on Hawaiian soil. Now, he's not here. It was for him. The movie was for him, that finally Kempo, and his life would be, all that stuff he wanted to do that he wasn't able to do finally just happened. And what a joy, right? He was on the set with me every day when I was doing fight scenes. 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd be there, no matter what it was. We would do a take, yell cut, and then everybody resets. And in that reset moment, I would look over at him and he would go, bring your hand back up because you shouldn't have it down here. He was on every fight scene, every time. He was helping to make sure that my form was correct, that my stance was correct, that the technique was exactly right. So it was really us doing this together. It was a father-son relationship. I didn't have a good relationship with my father. I had a very difficult upbringing because of him. So in walks Ed Parker into my life, and there it is. There's the father energy image that I struggled for all my life and never had. Now I had it with him, and then he's gone. And that's all part of the energetic value of what we had and what we lost. And both of those scales are enormous. We had the world. We had everything. And then I lost everything in a phone call. And what I had to do to get that behind me was I just had to not watch Perfect Weapon again. Of all the wonderful, amazing memories and the energy of all that and everything that matters, I carry that with me all the time. But I got to do what I got to do to be able to move forward. The Perfect Weapon kind of sits as a perfect little box that's got a lock on it, and you just got to set that over here.
Kempo can be the most lethal of the martial arts. To control the power of Kempo, you must first control yourself.
I loved the movie business. I loved making movies. That creative process, where you got a dozen people sitting around the table and you're throwing ideas and making notes and doing that. It was so much fun. And then you get to take it from concept off the table and go onto the movie set and actually shoot it. And the lights are up and the cameras and everybody's running around doing their thing. And you're in there and you're a part of it. And so it's that group effort. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. And between the time you're done making a movie to the time you make your next movie, it's miserable. The movie business is a very, very difficult business. The subsequent movies I did were much lower budget movies, but all I could do is do the very best I could, especially with my martial arts, which I believe I did. I still delivered on all those other films, which gave me the life that I have today, which is franchise schools in 21 countries and thousands of students all over the world, and I'm living in a world of happy. I want to be a martial artist. I want to be respected. I want to do the right thing. I want to live a good life with one rule, which is when you're at the end of your life, can you turn and look back and go, yeah, we did great stuff, didn't we? We helped that guy. We did this thing. We did, the world's a better place because you were here. And remember, Kempo is an extremely violent, street-oriented martial art. The subtext of that life is really founded on you being and then teaching other people how to be a better person and make the world a better place. I don't want to hurt anybody, I want to help people. And the paradox is, because I can hurt somebody the way I can, it gives me the power to be able to help people. And that is 100% of my drive. If you want to learn and you like what I say, and you listen to me and it resonates to you, then you need to seek me out. You don't belong to the pump. As long as you fight for the right of others to be free, not just you, then there's a redeeming humanistic value to that. It was the intention of The Perfect Weapon to bring that energetic value to the storyline in some way wherever I can. There's more here than just the typical revenge-based martial art film. Like, for example, at the end of Perfect Weapon, I never killed the bad guy. It's that arc. This film, The Perfect Weapon, was a true dedication to the art of Kempo. The team effort and the sense of pride, and we put it all on the line with Perfect Weapon. I mean, I didn't hold anything back.